Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to another exciting episode of Psychology Talks. And today we'll talk about non-linear thinking. In this world, lots of time, people are accustomed to think in a linear way. Linear way is something that, it's kind of a conventional way. It follows the same methodology, the same way, and unfortunately it is mostly used in the education system or like wherever, even the corporate world. People are accustomed to think in a linear way because they think that this is how the thinking should be. But interestingly, all the creative ideas and innovation comes from non-linear thinking. And that's why it is very important to let our mind flow in a non-linear way, because our mind is not designed to follow a pre-planned path or in a same way. It is meant to go wild. It is, especially when we talk about innovation and the creativity, it is meant to go in a non-linear way. And that's exactly we're going to discuss today, that what is nonlinear thinking and why it is important. And today I'm so honored to have one of the esteemed guests. His name is Perry Knoppert. He's a visionary founder of Octopus Movement. And Octopus Movement is all about nonlinear thinking. And he's created an amazing community of the nonlinear thinking. He is driving this nonlinear thinking to a next level. And that's what we're going to talk about, that how is he doing and what is the outcome he is envisioning. So let's welcome Perry. Hello, Perry. Thank you so much for joining us. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you, Bream. And when I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, is that me? Seriously?
Oh,
Thank
yes,
you
of
so much.
course.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you are an inspiration. And because that's why, when we first had the connection, your story really inspired me a lot. So
Thank you
thank you
so
for all
much.
you do. Yeah.
It's Can you imagine how weird it is to hear that when someone says your story inspires me? That's weird. It's so
Really?
weird. Yeah, it's so strange.
Mhm.
It's weird. It's strange, but it's a good thing. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
so I just gave a very, very brief introduction about you, that you are um, founder of Octopus Movement and you are driving nonlinear thinking. But just tell us a bit about yourself, that how you started this movement. I know a little bit that we had that our previous conversation, but let our audience know that what motivated you to start this movement.
Yeah. Oh, it's thank you for asking me this. And
Yeah.
it's interesting to share, what happens because I'm lost myself sometimes. I'm thinking, what am I doing? Um,
Mhm.
Maybe it all started in that period of time where I remember this so well. I was standing in someone's
Mhm.
living room saying, it's so clear to me now. And then she said, what is clear, Perry? And I said, I don't know, but something is very clear to me. And what was clear, and I couldn't use that language back then, but what was clear to me was my nonlinear brain in this linear world. And
Mhm.
throughout my life, who I am, I've always been a bit weird, a bit different,
Mhm.
and fun, maybe fun to hang out with, but a bit weird, a bit different. I was always doing things differently or didn't fit into the box perfectly. So
Mhm.
I've been always a bit strange. So what I'm trying to say is I tried so hard in my life to
Mhm.
meet the expectations that I
Right.
had myself as well and others,
Mhm.
but oh boy, was it difficult. And you just asked me, well, what is the start of the octopus movement?
Yeah.
The biggest thing is what happened was 4.5 years ago. There were some things happening in my life, and I took the decision to surf the wave and become homeless. I've always had an
Mhm.
interest in that, and other things were also coming together, and it's like it just happens. And you give away everything, which is very easy to do, by the way. It's really easy.
Yeah.
the day it's organized.
Mhm.
And I had this fascination of homelessness. And it's not about not having a house or not having anything, but it
Mhm.
for me it was what happens to you if you disconnect from everything,
Yeah.
and what's the result? And I guess what I'm trying to say is that I was so surprised by the discovery that it didn't change anything for myself,
Mhm.
but it changed everything for others. So others would see me as a homeless loser, but I didn't change. I still had the same thoughts. I still had the same feelings. So as a human, everything stayed the same. Whereas the people around you were starting to treat you differently. And that was a huge discovery. And that helped together with the discovery of my nonlinear brain in a linear world, and that discovery of everything stays the same, everything is here, and then the outside world just changes.
Yeah.
That created the octopus movement because after surviving homelessness of 7 months, I thought, okay, I can do everything. I survived homelessness. So if you survive that, then everything is possible. And I thought, the bottom line of everything, what I've seen and the people I've interviewed before and how I was myself and how I am myself was I spoke with so many people who said, if only people could all see who I really am, I could do so much more. And and that resonated so much with me. So many people said that. And I thought, I I want to create a global nonprofit that helps to create the awareness of these awesome people that think differently,
Yeah.
because we're missing out on an opportunity if we stay in that system of you have to have this in order to be seen or whatever. I think we're missing out on an opportunity, and that's the start of the octopus movement.
Yeah, that's quite inspiring. Actually, your story reminds me of I don't know you've heard of Rumi and Shams Tabrizi or not, because I was reading the life of Rumi. So Rumi is a very big spiritual leader. He used to be. I mean, he's from the ancient world time. Um, so his mentor actually took him. He was a Muslim, and there's like alcohol is not allowed; it's prohibited. So what he did was that his mentor took him, and he was a spiritual, religious scholar of that time.
Hmm.
So his mentor took him to the pub where like everybody was drinking, and he said like, why you brought me here? He said like, you have to drink. And because as when you are a religious scholar and you think that okay, alcohol is prohibited, and you have that kind of perception, and he said now you drink. And he said no, it's not allowed. And he said no, because sometimes you have to take another step and go into the shoes of the other person to see that actually we think that people are different, but when we actually take up their role, we see the world from their point of view, and it's no different from this. So I can understand that what you were saying, that reminded me of that. So it's, I think.
And it changed. Sorry, Ambreen, but I have to share this for
Sure.
people that
Sure.
it changed. So I stayed the same, but it also changed for me how I look at the outside world. And if
Absolutely.
I'm now in the city center of where I live and I see a homeless person, I cannot just walk by and ignore. I can't, because I
Yeah.
know now that that person is like me, and that
Yeah.
person is sitting there and he doesn't want to sit there or she doesn't want to sit there, and inside there's this beautiful human that is just like all of us, and
Absolutely.
I can't ignore it. And I
Yeah.
always have to do something, and often I go and buy a coffee and something to eat, and I sit with them, and I
Yeah.
like, how are you doing? And they're always so emotional by just reaching out and go and buy something for them and sit with them and
Mhm.
say, you have no idea, but I know what this is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's and because nothing changes for that person inside, only for the outside world. And then if someone in
Absolutely.
the outside world is saying, "But I see you,"
Yeah.
it's the best gift you can give.
Absolutely. Because to be honest, like at the core of it, at the core of our human being, as a human being, we are our souls. And I see that everyone has kind of the same need, same desire. It's just that we label them. Okay, this is the person, maybe it is white, black, this is the maybe religion or ethnicity. At the core of each human being, I think they have the same needs, same desires. And it's just the different sets of circumstances. Maybe like if you are, let's say, now in Netherlands, I'm in Saudi Arabia, it's nothing changes as like if because we are humans. But when people see us, they have their own perception to judge us, like, okay, this is the person maybe that I have, he must have that kind of behavior and that kind of traits. But
Mhm.
at the end, we are all humans and nothing changes. Anyways, moving up to the discussion that it is about the nonlinear thinking. So just tell us that what exactly is nonlinear thinking.
Well, it's the opposite of what you just said. You just
Ah,
described linear thinking so well.
okay. Okay.
Linear thinking is linear thinking is almost all of our thinking, and
Hmm.
it's so conditioned, and we're caught up. We're almost isolated in our linear minds, in our linear thinking. I don't want to offend anyone. This is not my conclusion. This
Yeah.
is this is how it works,
Hmm.
and I have to explain this.
Sure.
Um, an example is very simple. Have you ever seen a linear 2-year-old?
I don't think so. Yeah.
I don't think so. I've
Yeah.
never seen a linear 2-year-old. So, keeping that in mind, that we all are nonlinear thinkers, and it will
Mhm.
become clear what a nonlinear thinker is. But we're all nonlinear thinkers, and then we go to school, and then we have our parents, and we live in a society, and we're being trained to think in a linear way. And I'm totally not against that.
Yeah.
I'm just want to be aware of the difference between linear and nonlinear thinking.
Sure.
Nonlinear thinking is not for me, you know, the seven hats. You know,
Yeah.
what's he
Yeah.
called again? Um, the seven thinking hats.
Yeah.
That's not nonlinear thinking for me. That's still linear thinking.
Hmm.
So the conditioning of our minds, the conditioning of our thinking is linear because it's
Right.
educated.
Hmm.
So what is nonlinear thinking? Nonlinear thinking for me is the space between thoughts. And I have to explain that. If you're
Yeah.
listening to me and you're looking at
Yeah.
us, you have
Hmm.
thoughts, they pop up
Yeah.
in your mind and you're thinking, God,
Hmm.
his accent is very, very Dutch. And,
Hmm.
look at his beard or whatever, or he has a big
Hmm.
forehead. And they're thoughts, they pop up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And those are linear thoughts. You see something and you create a thought. So it's a result of what you see or what you hear or what you feel. It creates a thought, and it's another thought to another thought. And in between these thoughts, there's space. And for some people, there's a lot of space. And for some people, there's hardly any space.
Yeah.
And for me, that's nonlinear thinking. It's the space between thoughts that's empty and that creates new individual thoughts that is not related to anything else. It's where creativity comes from. It's
Yeah.
you're underneath the shower and all of a sudden out of the blue something pops up. I think everybody recognized that. Like all of a sudden you have an idea
Yeah.
or you lost something and without thinking you're taking a shower. Again, I love showers. Or taking a bath and you relax and it's warm, it's nice in the water, and all of a sudden in your it's there. I know where it is. And you were not even thinking about it.
Yeah.
For me, that's nonlinear thinking. And then I have to explain what the difference is between nonlinear thinkers and linear thinkers. So again, we're all nonlinear thinkers. That's how
Yeah.
our brain operates. We're just conditioned and trained to use our linear thinking to get somewhere.
Yeah.
If I want to get somewhere, I say I want to have whatever. I want to have 100 likes on this post where we're doing something live, right? And then in our linear thinking, we find a way of working that creates a likelihood that we can achieve the 100 likes. And we start doing that in the purpose of reaching the 100 likes. For me, that's a very linear way that almost creates a kind of self-hypnosis, because
Yeah.
this is where I want to go, and this is the system I will use, and
Hmm.
that's all there is. So
Yeah.
I will not be able to see other connections. I will
Yeah.
just go for the 100 likes. But if you let go of that, then you are maybe happy with 10 likes, but then maybe something happens and you respond to that, and it creates 250 likes.
Yeah.
So for me, nonlinear thinking opens up a whole world of possibilities. It's where creativity lies. But it's also the world where we all connect together, because there's no judgment, there's no bias.
Yeah.
There's just us, one of one. Every
Hmm.
human is unique, and it doesn't matter what background, what education, what gender, what religion. It's irrelevant,
Yeah.
because those elements are in the linear thinking process. So hopefully, uh, this is creating some light within what is
Yeah.
linear and what is not linear thinking. And again, I think everybody is a nonlinear thinker, and it's
Yeah.
about refinding the balance in and also working together, knowing someone might be very linear and someone else is very nonlinear, that they find the language to work together, because then you can create beautiful things, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
i- if you bring that together, you can use a system and you can use human intelligence together and create something beautiful.
Yeah, amazing. I think you describe it quite well. Yeah, it actually gives me a lot of more questions to actually ask.
Go for it.
Because yeah, because like as you're describing that, you talk more about like the pause between the, as you said, that there's nothingness between those things. The thoughts which gives you the non-linear thinking, right? It's the
Mhm.
especially like if you read more about like Dr. Joe Dispenza and Eckhart Tolle, they also speak about it, that that how we find ourselves in that space of nothingness. Because when we these thoughts, for me, if I actually uh, think of it, that when we resonate at that kind of low level, right? Because we are energy being, we have frequency, and these thoughts come. This is something that these are the low. When you vibrate at the lower level, low frequency level, then you have all these kind of thoughts. As you move further, like when you achieve all the delta state and the gamma state, your mind gets resonate at the higher frequency level, and your thoughts also become like you move beyond that level, and you start that achieving that kind of, maybe you can say, the oneness with the universe and the god, and this that nothingness, that space that you say. And we also, like, now if I can just I'm describing my question actually. So when you actually achieve that level, it is also called the state of flow, right?
Mhm.
When you achieve that level, when you stop those irrelevant thoughts, right? That is already there, maybe when we are talking about it, and a lot of people already talk about it, that when you stop your rational mind, those thoughts, then you start moving that, and then you get into the state of flow. So maybe, like, I would just ask that, what is the connection between, let's say, the non-linear thinking and that state of flow, or that state of nothingness, as you would say?
In my feeling,
Mm-hmm.
I think language is very important on in this topic as well. As
Mm-hmm.
soon as we start talking in the state of flow, it almost feels like it's something difficult to achieve. Like, a state of flow means practice. It means, you know, becoming something, getting somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And a state of flow also, in my opinion, is something that is temporarily. So you're doing your work and you're writing a book and you're writing and writing, and all of a sudden it goes so smoothly. You're
Yeah.
becoming in a state of flow and you can
Yeah.
write without thinking. Wow,
Yeah.
that's flow state.
Yeah.
Nonlinear thinking is not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Nonlinear thinking is also a way of living.
Mm-hmm.
So flow state is a state of flow, which is a temporary state of mind in time, where a non-linear thinking can be there constantly. And you cannot live in a constant flow, because how do you do
Yeah.
your shopping, and how are you taking care of your
Yeah.
kids if you're in a constant flow, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't work. Nobody's in a constant flow. You
Yeah.
get into a flow and you get out. Otherwise, you're not getting in if you're not getting out. So,
Yeah.
but nonlinear thinking is different in that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
Mm-hmm.
temporarily. Nonlinear thinking is there with us anyway,
Yeah.
anyhow, with all of that us. But we've never trained at school to keep an eye on that. But it's
Yeah.
there since our birth. So, and there are methods that we're talking about, and that's, I call it the space between thoughts. So I can go there if I want to go there. But nonlinear thinking for me is that it's always there, and it means I'm not judging. I
Mm-hmm.
don't I don't want to convince. I find
Yeah.
that too linear. And recently I've was thinking about that. If I draw a conclusion, that's a form of linear thinking. If
Mm-hmm.
I draw a conclusion, it shuts down the space between thoughts. Because when
Mm-hmm.
you conclude, you close the door in that room, and then this is my conclusion, right?
Yeah.
There's no more space. So, and that's nonlinear thinking. If you are aware of that, that's linear thinking, then you can embrace the nonlinear thinking to be constantly in your life. And the misconception, I think, in the world is about nonlinear thinking. Let me give you a very simple
Yeah.
example. Is someone is very creative, looks creative, weird hair, weird glasses, everything is weird shoes, and it's all design and creative, and oh, that's a nonlinear thinker. Is very creative. Not necessarily. This can be a very linear approach to creativity.
Mm-hmm.
So a nonlinear thinking is almost just a way of living that you stop and create silence, where you enter that space in between where new thoughts can come. So you quiet down the brain if you are a nonlinear thinker. And that's something that you constantly do during your day, and you are in control of that. People try to learn you how to become in a flow state, but I've never had the feeling that I could really control my flow state. I know what a flow state is,
Yeah.
and I've seen it many times, and I've experienced it many times. It's great fun, and
Yeah.
I can draw myself into the likelihood of becoming in a flow state, but I'm not fully under control of flow states, and
Yeah.
I'm fully under control to use my nonlinear thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite clear now that non-linear thinking is actually what non-linear thinking is not, and it's as you can say, as you said, that it's not about following the same pattern, following the same conditioning. It's just let our mind go in any direction, right, and let it flow in a way that it is meant to, instead of directing or uh, or like letting it go in one direction. So I think that's what
Maybe,
I think is
yeah, maybe the point that I'm trying to make is that nonlinear thinking is like surfing the wave, but you
yeah,
you have to paddle first before you surf the wave, right? So
yeah,
it's both. There's action, that's linear action, the paddling, and then you surf the wave, which is
yeah,
nonlinear.
yeah,
And but you're taking action to get there. And I don't think flow state has a determined action to get there. Maybe a little bit, but nobody
hmm,
has ever given guarantees that if you do that, you
yeah,
can enter the flow
yeah,
state immediately. Doesn't work that way.
yeah,
And with
yeah.
nonlinear thinking, it does.
Okay, so my next question is that how we
Yes.
can actually get into the non-linear thinking and how we can stop our linear thinking.
Okay. First, and I've created 8 steps, and the
Okay.
first step is the most important step. It's quiet down the brain.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
you have to really remove yourself from the isolation of thought. That's a very uh, posh way to say, be quiet.
Yeah.
And our brain, so when we're listening to this, and you're interviewing me, Abreem, so you're
Yeah.
listening to me, and in your brain you're already thinking about the next question. You're preparing
Yeah.
yourself on what's going next.
Yeah.
So you're listening, but you're also listening to yourself right now, and
Yeah.
lots of things are happening in your brain. A
Yeah.
lot, listening and thinking, okay, this is where he's going. I want to ask this, and this is how I prepared.
Yeah.
So quieting down the brain means be quiet. So
Mhm.
we're in an interview, and I interview you and I listen to you, and I shut down my brain
Mhm.
and I just let it go.
Okay.
And silence comes because when you answered the question that I asked you, there's a moment of silence. And in my perception, that can feel like a very long silence, but for the audience, it doesn't even feel like silence. And
Mhm.
then my nonlinear thinking pops up with the next question is, I haven't been thinking about it. So the first and most important step is quiet down the brain, because then you can drop out of the laws of thought. What are the laws of thought? I need to explain that. George Boyle, 1815, created the laws of thoughts. It's the binary system of thinking, ones and zeros. It's the
Yeah.
computer language. We're trained at school to think that way. We wrote a white paper on education. I'm very passionate about education and some other topics as well. Um, the problem I feel with education is that we're not allowed to make failures, right?
Yeah.
If you do well at school, awesome,
Yeah.
everybody celebrates. If you're not doing well at school, you have a problem. That's
Yes.
basically it. So, you train that thinking during school, and it isolates your being, because that's how you've been trained to think, and it's been for hundreds of years like that. So generations before us are trained to think. Who tell us now that what we're thinking is the right way to think?
Mm.
So I think it's very essential to quiet down the brain and at least be aware of that. One small exercise, and then I will stop. An example on how to quiet your brain, because maybe
Yeah.
some people will say, okay, that's fun. I'm trying to meditate for years now. It's not working. I cannot quiet my brain, and my brain is on fire and has all these ideas and their thoughts all the time. There's a simple exercise that we can do right now. It takes 3 seconds.
Okay.
There's nothing. You just think about yourself. You breathe. You have your feet on the floor. It's quiet. It's relaxed. And you go into your brain and you ask your brain a simple question. Hey, brain, what is my next thought?
Yeah.
And your brain is going to be, "Ugh, what? What kind of question is this?" So when you ask your brain, hey, brain, what is my next thought? There will be a moment of silence. And then you will start thinking, that was a weird question, or no, it's not working, or my next thought is that I'm hungry, or something will happen. But there is a small window of silence, because you can't ask your brain this question. What? Hey, brain, what is?
Amazing. Yeah.
Isn't that
That's
it? It's so
that's
cool.
brilliant. Yeah.
Your brain is not going to say, well, my next question will be about the light that I need to turn off. No,
Yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah.
exist. So that's a great way to start practicing and playing with your own brain in how to quiet your brain. And for everyone it's different. I don't want to create a system or a method how to quiet down your brain, because
Yeah.
then it becomes self hypnosis in what we just talked about. It's your journey. You need to figure out. You don't need to do anything. It's you're in control to discover what works for you to quiet down the brain.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. And I love the question that what is our next thought? I work, I mean, I do meditate a lot and I do quiet myself, my brain. And I do also talk a lot about it that, we need to quiet our mind. But I never actually thought of it that, asking myself what would be my next thought. This is something like,
It's
we can,
it's
yeah,
it jams immediately. And to be honest, it
yeah,
took me so long to discover this.
yeah.
And I wanted to meditate. I wanted to quiet down the brain, and I couldn't. I couldn't
Hmm.
for a very long time, and it was really, for me, a very hard journey to get there. My brain is always active. It's always creating something, and I just wanted to be able to flip the switch, and it
Hmm.
was so difficult. But I discovered myself how to do that, and now I, I'm so happy with this that I can even flip the switch in our conversation.
Hmm. Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
now, I just
Yeah.
flipped. It stopped and it's gone, and we
Yeah.
continue. And
Yeah.
it creates so much freedom and peace and silence, and therefore nonlinear thinking.
Yeah. So I know, like you have experienced that quietness, right? So I want to ask that what is your experience? What do you experience when you actually quiet down your brain and nothing? I'm not asking that, what comes in next, but how you feel and what you think that what's happening, or how long can you stay in that moment when there is no thought coming?
I can't stay there for a very long time. I've heard
Yeah.
stories of monks that can be there for
Yeah.
hours, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking, wow, I want to talk to them. I want to know what it is.
Yeah.
Um, what happens with me if I'm in this
Yeah.
quiet space? It triggers awesome ideas or not.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
for I have a dog. I go walking with the dog every day, and sometimes I walk there with the dog, and then I'm walking there. My brain is on fire. It's like sending emails, creating new ideas, and doing things. And then I say to myself, "Okay, Perry, really? Maybe
Yeah.
not. Now you're
Yeah.
walking outside." And I flip the switch,
Mm-hmm.
and I see things that I normally don't see. I'm
Yeah.
not seeing flying pink elephants, but I notice the leaves, I notice the trees, I feel the warmth. I always walk bare feet outside, so I feel the ground better. It's so the sensory, the connection becomes very clear. And also with you, if I quiet my brain now, I have a feeling that I'm connecting stronger with you, that I see
Yeah.
you better, and that I can feel you in how you're feeling. And, and that's wonderful. If
Yeah.
if I'm not busy with myself trying to explain what nonlinear thinking is right now, and I can go to you, it's much more interesting. I know my
Yeah.
nonlinear story. And when I go to you, it's it's more interesting. There's an interesting connection, and that's what it brings to me when I quiet the brain and open that space between thoughts. There's a connection of where I am, or how I see things and feel things and hear things, and how I hear music. If there's not that radio frequency going on in your head saying you things, and it's absolutely quiet, you see things. It's like, blind people, but it's
Yeah.
wonderful how they can see things without seeing things. And I think
Absolutely.
that's the same thing for having a quiet space in your brain.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. Once I was actually interviewing someone who's highly spiritual, and he actually said almost kind of the same thing. This is like it was once meditating, and of course, like meditation, you have to quiet down. He said like once you quiet down the man. He said like it happened once only to him, and he started seeing things in a more, I would say, in the form of energy, the realness of the things that really is there, because what we see things is just the form, the matter, the composition of atoms and something. I say like when you actually achieve that state, you actually start seeing the real energy of things, and as you said, like in the people. And that's what, like, people, maybe like some people are blessed, they are empath, and they can have that connection, they can feel that energy, they can build that connection more easily, because I think that they might have quite in their mind, so they can actually connect with them. So yeah.
But maybe, Abreem,
Yeah.
maybe, just
Mhm.
maybe
Yeah, yeah.
we can all do it in our own way.
Yeah.
Um, our world is not helping us in that perspective.
Mhm.
So everything around us is pushing that linear way of
Yeah.
seeing things.
Yeah.
And so I do believe, and I've done some research on this. Why are some people so linear and why are some people so non-linear? I can
Yeah.
explain this to you.
Okay.
This is interesting. This is from the Institute of Economic Affairs, and
Okay.
they did research on non-linear societies and what it does to leadership and management and economic states. And they discovered that for people to be very linear,
Mhm.
meaning that they're happy with systems and they like to be in control of everything, that's a solution for people who tend to not being comfortable to go into their own state of mind.
Mhm.
So if your own brain and how you feel and your own state of being is a bit fearful and you don't want to go there, then you want to go to the opposite. And the opposite in not going to your own state of mind is removing as many problems or chaos or difficulties as possible. And to remove the chaos, you will create a system so you can be
Yeah.
in control. So you know what will happen next time, you know what will
Yeah.
happen next week, next month.
Yeah.
And if we allow chaos to be there in an interview and it can go all directions, it
Yeah.
would be fun for people. It's still very good to prepare so you know what are all the corners of the intelligence or the knowledge of this person. But to create some chaos, it
Yeah.
it, it creates excitement.
Yeah.
But if you want to stay in control and you want to make sure this interview is 40 minutes exactly, and you want to do the 10 questions, you create a system in order to really narrow everything down and be in control. And that's the linear mind. And the linear mind wants to be linear when there's a difficulty in going into a space of vulnerability and
Yeah.
and discovering what your own fears are and what's happening in your own brain. And if I can link this now to neurodiversity, this is very interesting that a lot of people within the space of neurodiversity are very comfortable in the nonlinear thinking space, and it's because of this. So imagine I have dyslexia. So at school my teachers were always complaining to me, always. So if I
Mhm.
was in biology and I would create something about plants and leaves, and I was making drawings and so cool, and I was writing underneath that, and I would make writing mistakes, spelling mistakes, because of my
Yeah.
dyslexia.
Yeah.
And there was always focus, no matter what, even if it wasn't language as a topic, there was
Yeah.
always focus on my mistakes. Always. So I
Yeah.
always read pen, wrong, 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 wrong. And
Yeah.
so what happens as a child, you go and see that and you're being, you know, challenged. What
Yeah.
do? You start wondering yourself, what's wrong with me? And that's not necessarily a horrible question, because it allows you to be vulnerable and to check out your own mental state. And the positive side effect of that is that you become easily a nonlinear thinker, that you can embrace chaos. There's some negative side effects to it as well, but the positive side effect
Yeah.
is that you can enter that space of chaos more easily, because you don't have an issue with going into your mental state of being, who you are and why do you think the things that you do, and why are you weird. You're trained to think about that from a young age because you have been different. Huge benefit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think chaos actually leads to some clarity, because there's always a chaos before, having that clarity. So I think that chaos is needed, or is a way to find the clarity. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So
I
anyways, I
agree.
know. Okay, that's great. So I know I can actually, I'd love talking to you, and this is such a brilliant topic, and I know that I can go on and on, but I think I need to finish the show. And maybe we can have another episode about it and we can discuss more on that. So I actually also wanted to ask, maybe I'll just ask one question. And why octopus?
Why the octopus? I will go very
Yeah,
fast. So
okay.
I was doing the interviews, and I survived homelessness, nonlinear thinking, linear thinking, and what the most nonlinear thinkers have in common, but what all we humans have in common, is that we're curious misfits, right?
Yeah.
That's the big thing. And I wanted to find a symbol that resonates with curious misfits. And
Mhm.
I was in a session, and Christine in London said, I always send an octopus emoji to someone if I had a fun conversation. Then
Mhm.
Haley in South Africa said, have you seen My Octopus Teacher? A documentary on Netflix was so beautiful. And I watched that documentary and I saw My Octopus Teacher. And it all came together without thinking, without planning. The whole
Yeah.
octopus movement isn't planned.
Yeah.
It's octopus movement doesn't have any rules. It's for everyone. It's not for nonlinear thinkers. It's for
Mhm.
all of us. And you can be there without your mask. You can be there with yourself. It's just awesome. And the octopus, why does it resonate? An octopus has 3 hearts, 9 brains, and 8 arms. 3 hearts, sensitive, 9 brain, fast thinking, 8 arms, doing lots of things. They adjust easily to their surroundings, change colors, change shape. And that's for me is nonlinear thinking. That
Yeah.
adjustment, the 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 sensitive, the thinking, that's the octopus. That's why it's called the octopus movement.
Yeah, amazing. I know this octopus is an amazing animal. It's an amazing creature. So, anyways, thank you so much for sharing this like amazing, brilliant insights about linear and non-linear thinking. So, what one piece of advice would you like to give to our audience today to develop non-linear thinking?
Don't listen to advice. Ha!
That's a good one.
Forget advice. Please forget
Yeah.
advice. Forget advice.
Yes.
Trust your nonlinear thinking. And I have a mantra, and it says turn on your nonlinear thinking. So we now understand a little bit how that works. Tune into the human mycelium. We didn't talk about that, but that's the
Yeah.
connection of all humans together. So tune into each other, talk with each other, and drop out the laws of thought. We talked about it as well.
Yeah.
And don't listen to advice. It's too linear.
Yeah.
It's you. And if you are homeless or not, it all doesn't matter. It's you. So if it's you, then advice almost becomes irrelevant. It's your discovery, and you have an amazing brain, so you can discover your own nonlinear thinking, and things will come together anyway. So my advice is don't listen to advice.
That's a brilliant advice, actually. I think you're the first one who actually on my show. It's been like a 111th episode, and everybody has given some advice, but this is the like perfect advice I ever got from anyone. So thank you so
Sorry for all the other
much.
111 advices.
No, that's amazing. Actually, the best thing is one needs to connect with themselves and listen to themselves. That's the main message.
Yeah.
So, what is the best way to connect with you? Like whoever is listening from this show or like
If you
live
see
or
me
anything.
here on LinkedIn, or if you want to go to the website www.theoctopusmovement.org, you can sign up for free as a member. You can swim with us. You can be in a think tank. You can do all kinds of awesome things. You can become a founding member. Go to the website. You will find my Pick My Brain link. If you click on that, it's a little brain. You click on that and you can book me for a 20-minute Zoom for free as well. Let's hang out. Let's talk. Let's discover our turning on our nonlinear thinking. I'm so excited to meet you. If you're listening and you're thinking, oh, maybe that's fun, don't listen to your thinking. Just do what you think it's good. There's no choice in that. You just do it or you don't do it. Doesn't matter. But go to Pick My Brain, book me, send me a message on LinkedIn, send me an email. Anyway, would be awesome to meet you.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for creating that space, like, where people can come and without mask, they can share their thoughts and be themselves. And it's an honor to be part of your movement, like those who are listening and those who know me, that I'm also part of this octopus movement. So it's a great place to be. So whoever who is listening to the show live or recording, please check out this octopus movement and be the part of it. So anyways, thank you so much, Perry, for joining us. And it was an amazing conversation. Thank you for sharing all the knowledge and wisdom with us. And thanks to all those who actually joined, like Barbara and Abrar and so many others. Actually, I usually sometimes don't get the comments. Oh, thank you so much.
And people should buy this book, right?
Oh,
It's your book,
thank you.
Abrim.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So anyways, thank you and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, Abrim. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for doing this. Thank you.